Good everyone, welcome to today's video, and today it's a review on the Ta-152 C-3. As I said in the H review, I said that the H-1 was more of an experienced player's aircraft, whilst the C-3 was a bit noob-friendly. Well, a bit more noob-friendly, shall we say. And that's pretty much what I came to the conclusion of, for a good few reasons. So, the C-3 is, for the most part, tuned for lower altitude. It can still work at high altitudes, however, it is not as good as the H. And obviously, it takes more time to get up there due to the shorter and stubbier wings. You may notice obviously a difference between the wings. If I just do a quick comparison, you can see there's quite a big difference in the size of the wings. This means that the C-3 has a lower climb rate than the H. And to be fair, that's a price to pay for the armament that you get and the versatility that you get. So the C-3 is better at low altitude by quite a good margin, shall we say. It's pretty comparable to most of the American fighters on the deck. It's going to be able to keep up with them better than the H-1 can. Because obviously at lower altitudes, the shorter your wings are, the less area there is for wind to obviously, or the air to obviously impact and slow you down due to air pressure and all that. And the fact that the C-3's wings are much shorter, this will benefit you at lower altitudes, enabling you to catch up to some of the more peskier US and British aircraft. So the C-3 changes very little, other than the wings really, from the H. Obviously you've got a different engine and you've got different armament. You still get the MG151 cannons, that's pretty standard. But you get an extra 2 of them. That's actually quite good, because, well, who doesn't love more Dakka? And the MK108 has been replaced by an MK103. Now, if you don't know what the MK103 is, I'll cover it briefly. It's actually one of my favourite cannons, due to its higher damage output, even with HVAP rounds, because yes, I'm going to give some perfect advice here. Do not split your guns on the TAR H1, but split your guns on the C3. Now, Hairy Feet said to me on Discord, because I've been keeping in contact with him recently, he says he's probably going to do the opposite. He's not going to split the guns on the C3, and he's going to split the guns on the H1. Well, he's going to split the... Sorry, no. He's not going to split guns on the C3, and he's going to split the guns on the H1, is what I meant to say. I was getting my English confused there. And I can sort of see why he's doing it, but at the same time, I personally prefer to do it how I preferred. So the C3, obviously, you get a 30mm MK103, which is a lot better than the MK108. And you get an extra 2 20mm cannons with 150 rounds apiece in the engine cowling. These two bad boys really do help out. Having the burst mass of 4 20mm cannons and obviously having your guns split is really handy. Now, if you don't know what I mean by guns split, to put it simply, you have your left mouse button. Obviously, I've been recently flying a P. Well, I think I was flying a Key 84 Otsu, so I literally just set it to that because otherwise my guns won't fire on my left mouse. For an aircraft like the C3, you're going to want to go left mouse button for your smaller caliber guns, which will be your 20mm, and for your large caliber guns, you'd want your right mouse button, and that would be your 30mm. So what about belts? This is where I'm probably going to get a bit flack for this. Obviously, universal, that isn't what I usually loaded. That's only if I was dealing with a lot of ground targets in the match due to a lot of API content. So, air targets under 20, for the most part, pretty standard. Everyone knows that. But why in the living hell have I loaded HVAP in the 30? Good question. Glad you asked, even though probably some didn't. The reason for that is because I had quite a good few teams in this aircraft, and the 20mm and the 30mm, yes, they can do well against ground targets, but not stuff like tanks and pillboxes. So I figured, okay, let's have the 20s for air targets, get them mainly for aircraft, and save the 30 for the ground pounding job. And obviously I could use the 20s in the ground attack role as well. That is perfectly fine. I tended to do that. But at the same time, if you needed a crack at tank or a pillbox, this was your belt. So that's my recommendation. However, you may have your own. So before we begin, let's quickly have a look at what I got up to in this aircraft. 6 deaths, 36 air kills, that was mostly due to head-ons, and 106 ground targets. This was a cracking aircraft to Spade. And for the most part, I had a little bit more fun than the H, but at the same time, the H felt better to fly just overall. Now, before I continue, repair costs. Gaijin, for the love of fucking Christ, fix this. I mean, the Key 84 Co used to be 30 grand, if I remember rightly. It was like 36 grand. And you just look, 35 grand to repair, well, almost 36 to repair the TAR H1 if you don't include belts. That's ridiculous. I did some calculations though, and I made a profit of 350k flying both these aircraft. That is not with premium. You will obviously get more if you had premium. But yeah. So let's jump into the actual battle, and I nearly had an ace in this game, which was so disappointing. But, whatever. I'm not that forced. But even so, excuse me, I'm terribly sorry I'm yawning this morning. Terribly sorry about that. But, this thing was probably the more versatile variant. And that's why you see the C-3 in ground forces compared to the H-1. The H-1 is more of a pure fighter in ground forces. This thing, you can afford to do both, and I don't know what's happening with the replay. There we go. I don't know what was happening there. Now there's quite a bit of a long show. Well, there's quite a bit of a dead zone in this battle. So I'm going to bump it up to 8 times speed. So in this battle, you can see there, Kumbul is having a discussion with Meldon. Obviously, they obviously are close mates and stuff like that, and they're gonna have a pretty good discussion in chat, saying like, oh, he's grinding mods and stuff like that. So I reckon he's Spade and the Bearcat, which, oh, God help you. And they start being like all cheeky, saying, I see you, and he says, I see you too, and stuff like that. And it was actually pretty funny. The main reason why I'm turning away is because of a tiger gap. I make a usual Star Wars joke in the chat saying, Bearcat's got the high ground, you've lost Anakin. Obviously I didn't say Anakin part. But at this point it's going to start to get a bit of a clusterfuck. There's no other word for it. And funny enough, there's a guy on the enemy team named Max Bainbridge. I think I know who that could be. I'm only joking. But there's a reason why I make that joke, but obviously that's related to personal, so I'm not going to say it. So at this point, Tempest Mark II, first kill. 3 players went for him then. That Tempest stalled out in front of us and stood no chance. So at this point, I was actually joking during the battle, thinking that Bainbridge guy is actually a close friend of mine. Obviously, I don't know if it is, but I was joking during the battle, saying, is that him? Yeah, let's go for him. He's an American Spitfire. But if there's one thing about the American Spitfire it can do, is it can actually keep up with TARS, surprisingly. Well, I say surprisingly, that's probably one of the most powerful things that they get access to. So at this point, I decided, okay, I'm just going to move my cursor there. Okay, let's drag him to the team. I say in chat, I'm baiting the spit. And the Bearcat is actually going to break off the A7 to come head on at me. He scores a minor hit, I score a crit and take out his engine. And P-51 comes screaming in then, but he didn't really have a good angle to get shots on anyone. So I just kept the throttle going. I even add insult to injury by putting in chat, Bearcat's buggered, in all chat, just because, why not? And in a moment, I'm going to get the assist on that Bearcat. So 420 mils flying at that P-51H. I don't know why you'd even think about taking a head-on against a TAR. And that's the end of him. Second kill. But you can sort of see why I suggest a C-3 for a newer player sort of thing. There goes the Bearcat. It's simply due to the firepower and the better usage of that firepower. I found myself doing better with the firepower of this aircraft than you would the H. But this Spitfire is completely stalled out now. And well, there's 2 of us going for him. The A7's got worse guns. I mean, the 13s are okay, but what the 13's going to do compared to 420 mils? And I get my third kill. At this point, I decided, okay, there's a couple of SPGs down here, so self-propelled guns, which appear to be based on Guerrilla self-propelled artillery guns. And I think, okay, let's see what I can do. It is at this moment, however, I spot a PB4Y, and I know Killer Ticket's not going to like that. But, I'm sorry, mate, it's got to be done. So at this point, obviously, I have my guns split, so I come in to do a brief strafing run with the 30mm. Excuse me. I get a couple of ground targets in the run, even though my shooting was completely horrible with the 30mm. I spent way too much ammo, if I was to be brutally honest. And obviously, I want to engage this bomber. Unfortunately, it doesn't appear that this PB4Y pilot either has the bomb load, or he doesn't know how many bombs it takes. I'm not sure. Probably the first thing, because, well, I don't know if he had the bomb load, because it's half 2 bases. I don't know how he got through undetected, personally, but, like, because we had fighters at low altitude, but even so, he got some points. And at this point, the PB4Y is focusing on dropping his bombs. I think those are 500 pounders, but even so, and it's just a complete slaughter. That is my 4th and final kill for this game. So, 14 minutes left on the game, and I've gotten my 4 air kills. Is that really going to be the end of the battle for me? No. Because guess what the 30mm can do? If you've been listening, you know it can hit ground targets, and this is where I start cleaning them up. Now we're going to have a brief... Well, I'm going to be briefly annoyed at Woody Shan in that 288. From what I've looked on his player card, he appears to be Chinese, but even then, why would you come onto the EU server and not know a bit of English? I mean, it would be better, because I was giving you a very good instruction to get you loads of RP and win the game quicker. But hey, 288 pilots, more brain cells than the average door, in fact less brain cells, sorry, than the average doorknob. So I used the 20mm on the lighter targets and the 30mm on the heavier targets, just the pillboxes and the tanks, which is pretty fair to do. Now, depending on the map, it takes about 6 to 10 rounds of 30mm to kill it. However, this is Gaijin, their hitboxes and their damaging effect towards ground targets are about as effective as tits on a fish. So, you can't rely on it fully, shall we say. And also you're going to see in this battle, there you go, that was about 12 rounds. You're going to see in this battle as well, just how fast this thing is at low altitude. So I'm finishing up, I'm out of 30mm, and I'm down to very few 20mm. Now that J2M3 is heading back to his airfield. I'm not sure what his spading status was. I was almost spaded, I just had the fuselage repair left. So we'll be able to see what this aircraft can do in terms of ground attack and, well, not just ground attack, but in terms of top speed. So the J2M's got about a mile ahead of me now. Is that going to mean anything? No, it ain't. His head start, bear in mind he's at about 249. I think he's not very well spaded at the moment. That's why I went for ground targets after getting a kill. But I'm just going to blow his bloody doors off. You can see what this thing can do at low altitude. Just watch the airspeed, folks. And you'll see just what this thing can do. 325, and it is just increasing. This thing is fast. It is fast on the deck, and I'm not sure what the LA designation. Personally, I think it would probably mean low altitude, which would make sense, but this is German, so probably not. But I'm just blowing the doors off this J2M3 at the moment. And yes, this thing's not the fastest aircraft at low altitude. I mean, there's some aircraft on the enemy team that can take that crown quite nicely. But you can just see just how quick this thing is once you get it wound up. And look at that. I mean, there's better fighters, as I've already said, but even so. So at this point, I'm putting the plane down for a landing to get myself some ammo. And I'm just going to head out and ground some more targets up. Now at this point, I was putting universal in the 20 mils. That's why there was universal belts on the aircraft. So I decided to wait for the 288. And of course, we have had a useless teammate. Fair enough, he's pretty much done nothing, and he's just going to sit here the whole game. I mean, he's got, like, I think he got, like, a crit, and then he just RTB'd. So at this point, I'm just going to pause it here so I can get back on track. So I thought, there's a cluster of tanks on the right-hand side, and bear in mind, base kills do not do anything to the tickets in this game. And I say to him, 2 Satans in that cluster should F him up. Do you think he's going to listen, folks? The answer is no. He's going to continue to bomb bases. Yeah, that's the kind of player I had to deal with. I'm sorry, but what would you rather do? Kill bases in a 288 or bomb a shit ton of tanks? I know which one I'd pick because it would give you more RP and credits. And it ate the bases. And even then, all he's done this game is bomb bases. So it looks like the TAR's going to have to do the work. But again, this is why you split your guns, because then you don't have to waste your 20 mils in case there are 2 enemy remaining fighters. I mean, one's in a D5, I don't know why. But that is the sort of thing that you're going to have to do, unfortunately, and it's just how it is, because your teammates just don't listen and understand you, because they buy a premium and they automatically think they're Mr. Know-It-All. And I'm sorry, but like, if you're going to spend, what, 40, 50 euros or whatever it is to buy the 288, I'm sorry, but you need to learn. You really do need to learn. And I mean, yeah, it's obviously you may not understand what I'm saying to him, which is fair enough. I mean, I don't know half things in this world, like language-wise. But if you're going to come onto an EU server that's pretty much full of English-speaking people, apart from very few exceptions, you would want to at least know some English and understand some English. That's my opinion. It's like in Call of Duty games when you get people just randomly coming in and they're speaking a completely different language, yet you're in a completely different part of the world on a specific server, and yet they're speaking something like Russian, Japanese, or Chinese, and you don't understand a word they're saying. They don't understand a word that you're saying, and it just makes communication and teamwork that whole lot harder. I don't bloody know. Notice there that the T-34 took several shots in the arse and didn't die, because, well, Gaijin buffing Russian vehicles. But at this point, Zoop 050105 has actually just J'd out on the runway. And I'm going to get, I think, one more tank, or an artillery piece, or a howitzer, or something like that. And the game's going to be over. Oh wait, no, that is the end of the battle, unfortunately. Or are we going to get this AAA gun right at the end? And we got it. Nice. That's always nice, isn't it? A bit of extra something that I completely forgot about. But that was the last flight to Spade, the aircraft, and well, that gives you a pretty good idea of what this aircraft can do if you split the guns. But anyway, I'm going to let you guys off. I hope you enjoyed today's review, and I will see you all on the next one.